Sebastian, mucho gusto. ¿Cómo estás?
I'm fine, Jonathan. I'm fine.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for making the time to talk with us today. I know you've been a really, really dedicated student in the SuperLearner course, and I just wanted to hear your story and hear how the course has impacted you.
Well, okay, my story begins a couple of years ago, like in the summer of 2014. I was going to a summer course of politics, law, and economics in Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. And once I got accepted, the first thing I got was a long list of the books and the articles that I have to read for the course. I was like, and I turned to my teacher and I said to him something like, "Hey, do I have to read absolutely all of this?" And he was like, "Yes, that's college." And at that time I wasn't even a 10th grade student. Well, the American system is different. That would be an 11th grade student. But still, I was quite shocked. And there's where I started to search for something that helped me to learn, to process, and basically to remember the information that I read more quickly. I wasn't an avid reader, for instance. I had another disadvantage, and it was I wasn't accustomed to read at all. And I was lazy. So I said, I need something that helps me to cope with reading and at the same time to read much more than a normal person would. Uh,
Very cool. So you went to this program.
exactly.
How did it go?
I went to the Udemy course at first,
Mm-hmm.
and when the master class came out, I really thought, okay, I think I need to upgrade, and I think that with this master class, I will be able to truly achieve my goal. So just when the masterclass came out, I decided I was going to become a dedicated student, and I decided I was going to perform the whole SuperLearner course with the masterclass. Because in the original course, I just slacked a little bit. So I started the course formally just around December 2015. And because of my classes and stuff, I wasn't able to finish it until July this year. In other words, in my summer program, in my summer vacations this year.
Mm-hmm.
After fulfilling the course, I noticed several things changed. The first one was that I was reading much faster. And the second one, and I think it's much more important than reading faster, I was enjoying my readings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a really big one. That's a really, really big one to actually not just have to slog through it, but actually to enjoy the process of reading and enjoy the process of learning.
Exactly.
I'm so happy to hear
So,
that.
for example, before I would generally read one book in my whole December break. It would be the winter vacations, more or less. So I would read only one book. This time, this summer vacations, I read around 4 books. I read a couple of novels, and I also
Wow.
read a couple of books that I was gifted for Christmas. Generally, my aunt gifts me some books, and I generally just throw them
Amazing.
away. This time, I actually read them.
Wow, that's awesome. How long does it take you to read a
It
book?
generally takes me around a week if I am just doing leisure reading. Now, whenever I'm reading for college, which is, for example, an article or something, I generally tend to just uh, like close myself in this space, and then I start just reading, and with that focus on, I could finish a book or so in around a day or two if I really put my mind into it.
Wow.
Now, that actually gets
A,
me
a couple sessions of an hour or
exactly.
two.
It is
Wow.
it is
Wow. Incredible.
extenuating, and it generally requires me to have lots of markers and take notes after I take the markers. But in generally it helps me to remember what I need to remember. Uh,
Yeah, so I think that's a question probably people in the audience, especially if they've never been exposed to super learning before, are thinking, okay, cool, you can read a book so fast, but how much do you actually remember of the book is probably what people are asking themselves.
I think the kind of revolutionary thing about this course is that it makes you remember things that people generally tend not to remember. most speed reading programs try to teach you how to take the macro structure of a text and remember the main ideas. That's it. And they say,
Yeah.
with that and a little bit of luck, you'll be able to breeze through college. Instead, in here, they actually teach you to remember the key details of the things. So, for example, by remembering that, I can remember that the Women's March, according to The Economist, the Women's March of Trump's inauguration had around 200,000 people. That's a lot. But the number is the important thing. The thing is, I can remember the number. And I think that's the kind of different thing about your course. You not only teach us to read and to adjust our pace depending on what we're reading, because it's not the same reading a novel to reading an academic text, but also to remember these key little details that actually help us to,
Yeah. So what would you say have been kind of the other major impacts on your life? I mean, obviously, enjoying your learning is massive. That's a huge benefit. But in terms of your day-to-day life, I mean, what kind of things have you experienced are different for you just on the average day?
I think the most mind-blowing thing is by using mental markers, I can, for example, remember the name of somebody if I want to. Now, that's a skill I'm developing, and I'm actually also a student of Anthony Metivia's masterclass. So I'm actually reviewing the Points and Faces course because I'm like, how did I do this? But apart from that, I'm also being able to remember things that before I wasn't really able to remember, or I'm able to memorize a phone number by assigning markers to it. And in general, I think it helps me to bring general concepts or general things that I want to remember into a language that I can understand, a language of images that it's basically my language, because they are my images. It's not just a hippo. It's a hippo that's, I don't know, pink, and it has very big eyes, and it's my hippo, and he might represent, I don't know what number, but he represents something.
So cool. So Sebastian, I want to be respectful of your time. I know even though you're a super learner, you do have a lot of schoolwork to get back to. So I wanted to ask you, would you have any advice? I mean, a lot of students, I think, like you did the first time, they give up or they get burnt out. They don't see all the way to the end of the course for whatever reason. People get busy. So I wanted to ask, do you have any kind of tips or tricks or recommendations for people to help them succeed as much as possible in this course?
Yes, I think the top advice is do not focus on the speed that you want to get to. Because the thing is, they generally tell you, get to 1,000 words per minute, and you're in 700 words, and you generally tend to underestimate the power of 700 words. I myself generally don't read at 900 words per minute, and I don't think I would do it nor today, nor later. I remember I was in a seminar of the Mastermind, and I asked you a little bit alarmed why I'm not reaching the 1,000 words per minute. And that's not the key point. The key point is that when you're reading at 800 per minute, if you started at 200 per minute, that's already a very, very big improvement. So I think that's one of the tips that I think it's key. The other one is to try and take challenges or challenging material. For example, something big and dense in math, or something big and dense in a subject that you dislike, and you take it and you really try to apply the concepts. I have a very good example of when I really realized this thing worked, and it was just before beginning the masterclass and dedicating myself formally on my summer vacations this year. And I had a chemistry exam, and it was an organic chemistry exam. And I remember that the key to organic chemistry was to memorize the functional groups and be able to name the compounds based on the functional groups. Okay, I took one of my aunt's house, and I turned that into a memory palace with all the functional groups. and that was it. I failed the final chemistry exam, but I was able to perform perfectly on the part of organic chemistry that was basically the part that I had super learned. And I wonder to my I questioned myself and said like, hey, if I had applied this to every single concept I had in chemistry, if I had taken every single unit and I said, okay, I'm gonna memorize this, and this, and these are gonna be my markers for this unit. Because in many patients, you actually have to manipulate the markers. It's not just about having them, but actually taking, I don't know, 2 plus 5 is 7, but actually you need the markers in order to to operate the numbers. So I think that's the key. The key is to do something that you think that you can't do and prove to yourself that with super learning you can do it. Another thing I did was learning Japanese with super learning. I had been in Japanese classes for 5 years. I had never been able to memorize more than 100 kanji and forget them in a month. I'm currently memorizing 250 kanji, and I'm taking Japanese as an elective in university. Something that like I usually thought, no, I'm not gonna take it because I'm gonna flunk.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. And how rapidly are you able to learn these kanji characters?
I generally review most of my kanji characters every day, and I try to learn at least 10 kanji characters, 10 new characters every day. So
Incredible.
it's more or less 10 characters every day. I think that's
Incredible. And I'm sure you're getting to the point where you now, the more you learn,
ex-
the more you're able to learn. At least that's been my experience, that you think, oh, I can't, I'm focused on so many different things. But I find that the more I focus in on piano, it helps me more effectively learn Russian. And the more I focus on Olympic weightlifting, it helps me more effectively learn acro yoga. And it's just like stretching this muscle that you have, because really you're creating, I like to think of it as more cortical gyrification. You're making the brain more wrinkly, but in reality, what you're doing is building more dense neural networks. So you just have, now you have more images to connect the kanji to. And when you go to learn the hiragana or the katakana, then you have just a larger library of things that you can map your markers onto.
exactly. It even helps you to have this bridging figures in your markers
Yes.
that actually help you through your journey and become your imaginary friends.
Incredible.
It's
Incredible.
incredible.
I love that.
Hey,
Your imaginary friends. Very
by the
cool.
way, I actually wanted to tell you personally something, and I actually love it. And is that last semester in college, one of my teachers introduced me to several linguistics books and several articles that actually backed
Hmm.
up the things that I was learning in this course. And I think,
That's awesome. I would love to see some
yeah,
of those
some
books.
of them are in Spanish. I wasn't able to get them in English, but at the very least, I think
That's okay. I read in
perfect.
Spanish.
So I think that was kind of revolutionary for me because it helped me to understand that actually what you are doing is not brought out of nowhere. It actually has a very deep
No.
rooted scientific um, study behind it. And that's
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I always like to tell people, I've invented very little, if anything. And a lot of these techniques have been around for thousands of years. I think what we have invented is just a more interesting and modern way to teach a lot of this stuff, and then combining it in new and unique ways that maybe other people haven't. But I do not consider myself an innovator in mnemonics or speed reading training at all. And I think that's the beauty, is these really are time tested techniques. So, Sebastian, I don't want to take any more of your time. I really, really appreciate it, and I want to wish you all the luck. Although I don't think you need luck anymore in your studies. I think probably we can expect to see you do really, really incredible things. And of course, if there's anything I can do to help, feel free to reach out and be in contact.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I actually appreciate very much your help. You've been an awesome teacher. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you.
Keep creating master classes. Keep updating your master classes and keep innovating with new stuff. Because believe me, you not only have a very good client in me, but also a very grateful friend. You don't, you can't imagine what you've done for my life. It's incredible.
Wow. Wow, thank you so much, man. You don't know how much that means to me, and that's really like better than any number of blog posts or recognitions is just knowing that like people's lives are actually being impacted. So, muchas gracias.
De nada, Jonathan. Muchísimas gracias a ti.
Awesome. Take care, my friend.
Hasta luego.